Hello and welcome to this PubNub tutorial on incorporating real-time chat in your Unreal Engine game. My name is Oliver Carson, a developer advocate here at PubNub, and today I'm here to talk to you about incorporating real-time chat inside your own game. It's pretty costly to maintain your own chat because you have to maintain the infrastructure, the servers, as well as ensure that it's actually secure. But luckily with PubNub's low latency API platform, we're able to take care of the infrastructure layer of your apps so you can focus on your application. This tutorial will walk you through the features of the Chat SDK, explaining the architecture behind building a chat app, as well as exploring an existing example with our Unreal Engine Chat Showcase game. To begin, you'll need to install any PubNub dependencies and configure the PubNub Unreal Chat SDK to connect your application to the PubNub network. While you can either use the core Unreal SDK instead of the Unreal Chat SDK to implement text chat, we will be utilizing the Unreal Chat SDK as it's more tailored to chat. You can learn more about the difference between the Unreal Chat SDK and the Unreal SDK by reading our blog post comparing the two. The best part about either of these SDKs, you can either use the visual scripting language Blueprints or C++ to perform this functionality. For the sake of simplicity, we will be focusing on the Blueprints approach for this SDK. While the code snippets will be images, our documentation has interactive blueprints that you can directly copy the nodes from, as well as paste these into your project. And don't worry, each feature we'll discuss will have links to our documentation to implement either Blueprints or C++. So to begin, you'll need to download Unreal Engine 5.0 or higher. The Unreal Engine Chat Showcase game was built using the latest version, which at the time of this video was 5.4.4. Next, you'll need to install an IDE depending on your system and preferences. I personally enjoy using Writer. Then you'll need to clone the Unreal Chat Showcase game via the repository, and be sure to follow the instructions in the README to install the Unreal Chat SDK. This also includes obtaining your free API keys, which we'll explain shortly, since they are necessary to connect to the PubNub infrastructure. You're also welcome to create your own Unreal Engine project or utilize an existing application. Once you've downloaded the game, add the SDKs to the correct plugins folders, and be sure to open up the game project in the Unreal editor. Navigate to the correct location, as you see on the screen here, and give yourself a user ID that is required by all PubNub SDKs to connect to the platform. Before you start publishing to send messages to other devices and subscribing to receive these messages from other publishers, as well as incorporate other useful message features, you need to understand the basics of the Unreal Engine Chat SDK so you can utilize this information when setting up your application. Feel free to skip this section if you already understand these, but stay tuned if you'd like to learn more. So the Unreal Chat SDK is a part of our chat SDKs, which are essentially, they provide special abstractions for more intuitive chat-focused APIs to be able to integrate into your existing applications. So every chat SDK consists of what we call chat entities, which are essentially the building blocks that make up the SDK, so you can easily build, manage, and access all levels of your chat app. Every entity has different methods and properties that allow you to build your chat system. We'll briefly go over the basics of each of the chat entities, but it's really highly recommended that you go through our extensive documentation to understand each entity and the methods available for each one. So to begin, the chat entity is the core component you interact with once the Unreal Engine Chat SDK is initialized. It provides access to various methods like creating channels, managing users, and as well as performing operations such as deleting a channel or even checking user subscriptions. Initialization requires a publish key, subscribe key, and user ID with optional additional settings as we did in the earlier steps. You can only have one instance of the chat entity active at a time, so it's recommended you store it in your game instance to be able to access between various levels. The channel entity allows you to manage chat channels in your Unreal Engine game. You can create, update, delete, and even fetch information about specific channels. Channels are central to organizing chat spaces and can be used to group users together for conversations. You can also retrieve metadata and manage user memberships within each channel. The user entity represents individual users in the chat system. It allows you to create, update, delete, and retrieve information about users, as well as manage the online status of users known as presence. You can also manage user metadata and track which channels they are a part of. This entity helps you manage user-specific data and actions, ensuring smooth interactions within the chat environment. The message entity handles sending, retrieving, updating, and deleting messages within your chat application. It allows you to manage the flow of communication between users, ensuring messages are properly delivered and stored. With this entity, you can also track message metadata and manage various message-related actions, such as threading or reactions. The membership entity manages the relationship between users and channels in your chat system. It allows you to add or remove users from specific channels, retrieve membership details, and update membership-related metadata. This entity helps maintain user participation within channels and ensures users are subscribed to the right chat spaces. And finally, the event entity allows you to handle real-time events within the chat system, such as user presence updates, or message actions, and even channel updates. You can listen to these events to trigger specific actions or updates in your app. And additionally, you can even create custom events to extend chat functionality, allowing you to define and respond to unique actions beyond the default chat events, providing greater flexibility and control over your chat environment. There are a few other entities, but these are the most common ones and the ones that you should actually focus on to help get started in building your chat application. Once you've read through the documentation on these entities, you're now ready to start building the chat. So the first step in initializing chat is to call the init chat function from this location you see here on the screen to construct the chat entity object. You provided the user ID and the publish and subscribe keys earlier when the function initialize PubNub is called from the front-end state component in the Unreal Chat showcase game. If the user ID you see to initialize the SDK does not exist in the keyset's app context metadata, it will automatically create a PubNub user using that user ID. You can then update your user metadata using the update user method to edit the metadata of an existing user. As mentioned previously, you can only have one instance of the chat entity object constructed at a time, which is why you should keep a reference to the chat object in the project's game instance, so it can be referenced anywhere within the project. Once you've initialized your chat object, you'll need to create a channel entity of one of the following types to establish a connection between you and interested subscribers: public, direct, and group. When you create each type of channel, you'll need to give it a channel ID, similar to how you had to provide a user ID for the chat entity creation. While PubNub doesn't enforce specific channel names, it is recommended to follow our channel naming conventions guide to help dictate their purpose and the types of messages being sent over those channels. Public channels, or conversations, let players engage in open conversations with many people. Anyone can join public channels, but there does exist limitations for attempting to implement things such as typing indicators, invites, or even read receipts, because these features are not practical for a large number of users in one channel. To create a public channel, call the function createPublicConversation by providing it with a channel ID and some metadata about the channel. Let's take a look at an actual example located within the front-end folder in the showcase game, WB Front-End Chat. While not required, you should always provide channel metadata about the channel entity you are creating. Most importantly, update the type field by denoting the type of conversation. It is important to note that when you establish direct or group channels, those function calls will automatically create the channel membership for the channel member and sends an invite for another user to join the channel, or other users for group calls. Since anyone can join a public channel, this membership is not established. If you would like to establish a membership between the user of the chat object and the public channel, you'll need to join the membership as indicated in the above screenshot. Direct channels enable private conversations between two players. One player will initiate the chat and send an invitation to another person. You can call the method createDirectConversation to create a direct channel between two players. In order to establish a connection with another player, you'll need to create or get a PubNub user from app context. Similar to creating a public channel, you should also provide some useful metadata about the channel. createDirectConversation will automatically perform the following for you. 1, it automatically will set the channel membership for the channel owner so that they can join the channel. And 2, it will invite the other player to join the channel. As a result, an event of the type invite gets created, and you can listen to these events in your chat app and notify the invited players. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Group channels enable communication between multiple players and can only access the channel when invited from another player. You can call the method createGroupConversation to create a direct channel between multiple people. In order to establish the connection with other players, you'll need to create or get an array of PubNub users from app context. Similar to creating a public or private channel, you should also provide some useful metadata about the channel. createGroupConversation will automatically perform the following for you, similar to how it did for the direct channel. It will automatically set the channel membership for the channel owner so that they can join the channel, and it will also invite the other players to join the channel. As a result, an event of the type invite also gets created, and you can listen to these events in your chat app and notify the invited players so that they can join the channel. Now that you've established the different types of conversations for your application, you'll need a way to be able to publish and receive these messages sent across the PubNub platform. To be able to send and receive messages, you will need to utilize a PubNub channel object type to perform this functionality. Regardless of the type of channel you create, each returns a structure that contains the created PubNub channel object type that you can utilize for both sending and receiving messages for that conversation. To be able to publish a message on a specific channel, you can call the sendText method to prepare the final message content for publishing, which includes the text itself and any relevant metadata about the message. The metadata parameters, however, are not required. To be able to receive messages on a specific channel, there are two methods you can utilize to do so: connect and join. Both enable users to receive messages, but have different distinctions. Connect enables you to let players watch a given channel without the need to join the channel as members. And this is useful in case you have an invitation-based system where a player who gets invited to direct and group conversations doesn't actually want to join the channel as an official member, aka just denying the invitation. You define a callback and can listen for messages on this channel as they occur. Join also connects a player to a given channel, but it also sets its membership. This way, the chat users can both watch the channel's content and be a full-fledged member. Just remember, create direct conversation and create group conversation both set the channel memberships, so you can simply connect to listen for those messages for those types of chats. Congratulations, you've established the foundation of the chat system for your game. There's a lot more you can do though with the Unreal Chat SDK, including getting the online status of players, loading previous conversations, in-depth message features, and more. So please continue learning to see how you can implement these features for your own game. To load which conversations the player is associated with, you'll want to utilize the method getMemberships. This method returns the list of all channel memberships of a given player. Remember, when you create a direct or group channel, you automatically have the membership set that associates the player with that channel, which is essentially the same as true with join calls. You can utilize the channel data from each of these channels to display, such as for group conversation and public channel names. Once you have the channels that the player is associated with, you can call getMembers to return the list of all channel members for each channel. You can extract each user entity from the returned memberships array to retrieve user data to display on the screen. The Unreal Engine Showcase game displays these conversations and pulls from each other entity's certain username to display on the UI. Since you've called getMemberships, you now have access to each of the channel entities that the logged-in player is associated with. You can then fetch historical messages from each of these channels using getHistory. This method returns an array of message entities. In order to store and retrieve messages for your application, you'll need to ensure you have enabled message persistence in the admin portal. When adding each message from the conversation to the UI, you'll probably want to display the date of each message. Each message entity has a function called getTimeToken. This is the 17-digit precision Unix time, and to be able to convert this to a Unix timestamp in seconds, you'll want to divide the time token by 10 million. And the Unreal Engine Showcase game shows an example of how to do this if you're curious. As you load the conversations and obtain the messages that the conversation has, you might want to signal or notify in some way to the user that they have missed some messages. This could be a notification on each conversation or a pulsing yellow color depending on the messages that they have missed while they were gone. The Unreal Engine Chat SDK stores info about the time token of the last message the current user read on a given channel on the last read message time token property. This property is available on the custom parameter of the membership object. It is automatically set for a user when they first establish this membership via connect or join, but you will need to decide what player actions will trigger to update the last read message time token property, such as if they click on a conversation or even a button to clear the notification and so on. When you first load into the app, you can utilize the function getUnreadMessagesCount to return information on all of the messages for the user. This returns every channel entity that the user has a membership for, as well as the count of missed messages. If a channel does not have a count that is higher than 0, you can then display your UI notification on the missed message. You can utilize the last read message time token property associated with each of the return membership entities and the PubNub unread message wrapper to determine how many messages the user has actually missed. Utilizing the method lastReadMessageTimeToken can determine the time token of the last message the player read on a given channel. Since you have fetched the message history earlier, you can check which messages haven't been read yet based on the time token. You can also utilize the end parameter in getHistory to pull the specific subset of missed messages, where end, without the start parameter, would be the last read message time token, as you only want to receive messages from that end time token and newer. Once you have this subset of missed messages, you can then display these in a unique color so that the user can see which messages they have missed. You would then repeat this process for each channel that has any missed messages. Once a user has seen these messages in each conversation, either by scrolling through to the bottom of the conversation or clearing the notification with a button, as we mentioned earlier, you will need to update the membership entity associated with that channel's last read message time token. After updating the last read message time token, you should call the setLastReadMessage function, as it lets you implement the read receipts feature and monitor which channel members read which message. You can then call streamReadReceipts method and attach a callback to listen for the read status of those channel members. In the chat, you probably want to graphically show up-to-date information on all the users present in the game or on a given channel, showing if they're online, offline, active, or even away. The Unreal Chat SDK provides methods to determine user presence on the channel as seen in the Unreal Engine Showcase game here. Depending on how you want to handle presence, it's generally recommended to have a global channel that every user is subscribed to in order to track general presence updates. You can also perform the next steps for individual channels, but for the sake of simplicity, we only care about one channel's presence updates. Regardless of how you wish to utilize presence, you'll need to ensure that you enable presence for your key set in the admin portal. Also, ensure that the Generate Leave on TCP FIN or RST option is enabled, as it helps detect the connection termination of a network layer and report it as a PubNub leave event, helping generate events more accurately. When you first load the game, you can call the WhoIsPresent method to return all users on a given channel. This method returns a list of user IDs that are currently online. Then you can go through each of the conversations that you loaded up earlier and update the online status of players associated with each conversation, since you called get memberships earlier. Once you're done with the initial load, you can then stream presence events with the channel entity you wish to track presence events on by calling the method stream presence and attaching a callback to listen for any presence events to update your UI. When you want your players to be able to search for other players, you should add a UI that allows them to type in names and then populate a list that will match that enter text. You can utilize the PubNub Chat SDK to perform this task. You can set and get user metadata via our app context feature. You can utilize the get users method to get a paginated list of all players and their details. This method returns a structure that includes an array of user entities that can extract and display on the UI. You'll need to make sure that you not only have app context enabled in the admin portal, which is required to use the Unreal Chat SDK in general, but also ensure that the disallow get all channel metadata and disallow get all user metadata options are disabled. Once your conversations are loaded and users have caught up on any missed messages, they should be able to interact with messages by performing various actions that are common in other messaging applications, such as in Discord, Messenger, or even in WhatsApp. The typing indicator feature provides real-time feedback when someone is composing a message. As a user begins typing, you can call the start typing method, which activates a typing indicator on a given channel, such as each channel entity obtained from loading the conversations earlier via get memberships. Other players can listen for these typing events via the method getTyping. You can then loop on each of the users that are currently typing in that specific channel to display in the UI. While there is a stop typing method that can be called to deactivate a typing indicator on a given channel, the Unreal Engine Chat SDK has a default typing timeout set to 5 seconds during the Unreal Chat SDK initialization. The start typing method subtracts 1 second from the default timeout to cause an intentional delay between typing signals as a way to ensure that the system responds to a user's actual typing behavior. The message reactions feature allows players to interact with messages by adding reactions commonly found in other chat apps, such as a thumbs up, smiley face, and so on. When you load a conversation, Get History will not only retrieve messages, but also all reactions and metadata attached to the message. If you would like to determine which reactions are associated with a specific message, as well as the ID of the user who added it and the time token stating when this action was added, you can utilize the reactions method. As an add or remove reactions on a message, you can utilize the toggle reaction method for both adding and removing message reactions. These reactions can be your own custom emojis that you've mapped internally, but you can also utilize just basic text emoji wrapping. An example would be this for the thumbs up emoji. To trigger message reactions for other users to visualize and see, you can call the stream updates method. This method's callback is invoked whenever someone adds, edits, or deletes a message, or adds or removes a message reaction to and from the specific messages. Once a user receives an update, you can check to see if the message reaction has user reaction. Using Unreal Chat SDK methods, you can implement UI features allowing users to pin and unpin a message to a channel by selecting a sent message and placing it at the top of the channel for everyone to see and access it easily. Users can pin a message via pin message, get the pin messages by calling the method getPinMessage, and also call unpin message to remove the message pin. Message threads allow for organized, focused conversations within a larger chat channel by grouping related messages. With threads, users can reply directly to a specific message, creating a structured conversation flow that helps prevent important discussions from getting lost in the main chat. Each thread is associated with the parent message, and users can send, retrieve, and even manage thread messages just like standard chat messages. When you first log into the app, you can call the getThreadHistory on the thread channel entity to load the initial thread messages from that thread channel. In order to get the thread channel entity, you can call the createThread and getThread methods, both of which return the thread channel entity. Players can then receive updates when specific message threads and related message reactions are added, edited, or removed using the stream thread message updates on the thread message object. There's a lot more you can do with the threads feature, so it's recommended that you check out the documentation to learn more. Unreal Chat SDK has chat moderation tools that provide essential features for maintaining a safe and respectful environment in your chat system. With these tools, players can flag users and messages, and then admins, in turn, can monitor conversations by muting and banning these users based on these flagged messages. Based on this admin moderation, your app should then check user restrictions that verifies these permissions for users to prevent them from performing some operations in the chat app. For example, you can check if a user is muted before they try to post a message on a channel, or verify if they are banned before they attempt to join a given channel. In this tutorial, you've learned how to add a robust real-time chat system to your Unreal Engine game utilizing the PubNub Unreal Chat SDK. We've discussed everything from how to initialize a chat object in your environment, to creating different conversation types, to even sending and receiving messages, and even how to implement advanced channel, messaging, and presence features. Whether you're an indie developer working on your first game or a seasoned developer looking to enhance your multiplayer game, PubNub's real-time functionality can serve as the infrastructure to support your in-game chat, so you can focus on what matters most. Check out the description for more resources to implement chat into your own application. Thanks for watching.